Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today I was really inspired by a couple of videos from the Lavinia Stamps artists. Now, no one in particular, this isn't sort of cased off another project, but I guess this is sort of what I would call their style. So I'm going to do a couple of, I guess it's going to end up being silhouette, and I've got a little moon here. So I am sort of going off their style, but with none of the products that they use, essentially. I don't own any Lavinia stamps, just because I haven't really come across them. And so that's okay. We can create that style using what we have. And that is what my channel is about. We recreate bits and pieces, even though we have nothing that we supposedly need. So let's give this a go. I am starting off by creating a moon sort of shape in the background. Now, this is just a white piece of cardstock from one of my circle nesting dies or a punch, and I am just inking up some, I think I have sea glass and I think some blue sky ink. These are both from Gina. I am adding the sea glass around the outside of the card, sort of just as like a rough layer to begin with, sort of like a layer of ink. Then I am going to add on some of that blue sky. Now, I actually had an old finger dauber here that I was using, and this was not the most efficient way to do it. I'm actually going to swap soon and swap into a domed foam blender, which I find 1,000 times easier. I was trying to persevere with this and use this up, but no. All right, here I've swapped to the domed foam blender. I'm going around the outside here and leaving that little, like a halo around the moon. You know, I'm not going right up next to the moon as well. Then I'm going to take some Tranquil Teal, which is a dark, well, fairly dark, turquoisey, tealy sort of color. And I'm coming in pretty much with just the edges. Now, as I said, I'm taking a few techniques from that I have seen used on the Lavinia cards, and they are stunning. They're absolutely gorgeous, and I don't, they do things that I don't think of at all, and so it's just amazing. So as I said, I'm taking some of the ideas and trying to apply it with the things that I already have. So this is just water. The Gina inks are water reactive, so that means that they're going to add these little gorgeous splotches and marks, water markings. But I want to show you one trick that I haven't seen super recently either, is I'm literally just touching my nail, the tip of my finger, down onto these spots to get the splashes. You might have a beautiful little fan brush or something like that that's going to get you lovely even splatter. Either, you can use them both. Now that creates beautiful texture within itself, and I really do like that look. But a fun thing is, when you go back over this with ink, so I'm going back over with the Tranquil Teal, those spots that we took the water from are going to darken and turn darker than your other inking. So it picks up a whole new texture, really. And again, if you wanted to do this like through a stencil, then you could add on that sort of texture using that, but this is just a nice easy way using water. And so I'm just lightly coming around basically on top of what I've already done with that Tranquil Teal color, the darker color, and then just to get some contrast and get some more texture in there that's a different color, I'm coming back in with the water, again just using the very tip of my finger to put those little splotches of water down, just so it's pretty controlled, I guess. And then I'm going to dab them up with the cloth, and you can see there's some dark splotches, some light dots, all the good things so far. So then I'm going to add an ink and make a little messy spot. And that just happens. That's okay, we'll fix it up later. We'll worry about that later. This is the text background by Woodwear, and I think this is nearly sold out. Creative Expressions are closing down, and so all of the Woodwear items, the Creative Expressions, all of those lines are getting harder and harder to find already. And so this one, I don't think I can find this one already, and I'm sorry, but any text background just gives us a little bit of texture going on. Now, this is I think it's called Bare Trees by Trinity Stamps, and I'm going to stamp this down. If you have a die, you can make this into, like there's lots of branchy dies out there, then by all means, cut it out in some foam and stamp it that way. I happen to have these gorgeous stamps, so I'm going to use those. I did need to cut them apart, and that's okay because that just gives us more ways to use them. I'm popping this in my stamping platform, and this is where I'm going to come in with some permanent ink. This is the VersaFine Clair Warm Breeze color. Now, this is maybe one of my top favorite colors of the VersaFine Clair range, and on that branch, I'm actually going to add in a bit of VersaFine Onyx Black. I'm just sort of swishing the edges of the stamp with the black ink, and you could come along by all means and do this with a black like a black fine liner pen or something, and add in that extra little bit of shadowing. But you know, I have the ink and the stamp was in place because I was using the stamping platform, so we can make it work. And then as for the silhouette shape, I popped that tree in the perfect place so that I was hoping I could pop one of these gorgeous little silhouette fairies so that it's sort of centered in the middle of the moon. Not perfect, but give or take, well, you know, it's sort of meant to be a moon in the background. We'll work on that soon. And I'm going to stamp that beautiful little fairy coming off there. And again, this is probably not something that I'm super familiar with, these techniques, or using fairies is not something I would say is my go-to, but I end up loving this card. I really, really enjoyed this process and getting, you know, nice and inky, getting lots of ink out. Again, I'm going to take that Warm Breeze color, and I'm going to stamp out some of the little leaves that were in the Bear Tree set. Now, you can just quickly whip around and pop these in. There are little trios. There are just a couple that have 2 leaves. There's singular leaves. There's lots of different shaped leaves for different seasons. I quite like the versatility of this set. And obviously, they're meant to be trees, but if we turn them sideways, that makes an awfully good branch, I think. And so I'm just going to add a few of these in. I'm using the Warm Breeze color, but then I'm also dipping it into some of the Onyx Black every now and then, just to give the leaves a little bit of, you know, two-tone. If I had a darker shade of teal, then I would probably use that, but I don't, and that's okay. We'll use the black. It's just fine. So you can see there's even little mushrooms here that you could pop like coming out of the ground, because there is a grounding stamp there too, so that you can ground everything and go underneath the trees. And those little mushrooms would look cute. These are little stamps out of the fairy set. They're like little, you know, sparkles in the sky, and I'm doing some 1st and 2nd generation stamping there. And then I'm going to use this little small stamp set from Gina called Dreams Come True, and I think this one may have been an incentive stamp set too, but nonetheless you can purchase it, and it's a smaller stamp set, so always a great price point. I love Gina, but this one I'm just using for this little foliage, so truly you could probably find a million of these little stamps in your collection. Just a little bit of something to come in and frame up our piece. So I am dipping it into both of the Warm Breeze and the Onyx Black ink just to get a little bit of variation. As I said, if I had a darker teal color, I would probably use that, but that's okay. We've gone with black and I think it looks just fine. It's going with the theme of the card. And I don't want this to be perfectly even all the way around this frame. I really am trying to have it heavier on the left and the top, and then sort of leave some down that bottom right-hand corner. So just a few little bits of foliage coming in all around to frame our piece. I have some squeezed lemonade Distress Oxide ink, just because it's water reactive. I actually don't have the normal Distress inks. I only have the oxides. And then I'm going to add a little bit of colour into the moon in the background. So a little bit of yellow. I'm not too worried because all of my tree branch and my fairy were all stamped with permanent ink, so we're okay there. But I am just sort of going gently. It's probably not perfectly dry yet, and I don't want to smudge it, that's for sure. And then I get a tiniest little bit of black soot ever just to create a grey, because I was too lazy to get the actual grey. And then I just add in, again, a little bit more shadow, just some shadows into the moon, just so it's not perfectly yellow. And you could add in, you know, you could use watercolors, you could use a little bit of coloring pencil or crayon, anything to add in a little bit of color into the background. And I think that really brings the moon to life and also gives it that little bit of color. And then really from here, there is just a couple of little finishing touches I want to do. I am going to mat this onto a piece of black. This happens to be the Lawn Fawn Licorice cardstock, and I'm just giving this a thin matting layer. The actual piece of card that I'm working on is 4.5 inches, and then this one that I'm popping the black layer, this is going to be 4 3/4 inches, and then my card base is 5 1/4 inches square. I think this is a square card base. Popping it down onto a white card base. And then there's little details that we can carry on doing onto the project. Now it looks perfectly fine as is. And as I said, I had a lot of fun creating this. I love the text in the background. I love the colors. I am a blues girl, so I really did enjoy that. And yeah, this one worked out pretty good, I think. But you can let me know in the comment section down below if this, how you think this worked out. If you've seen the Lavinia, stamps and projects that they create. That's what I was inspired by today. And I am using a little white pencil, and I'm just going to add in some little highlights on the fairy and on the branch, just a couple of little extra bits and pieces. I'm also going to take a little bit of the diamond stickles, just a tiny little bit, and using my finger, I'm going to dab this in around the background of the moon, just so that the moon sparkles a little bit as well. I quite like that look. Yeah. I had a lot of fun creating this, and as usual, I will put all of these supplies, they will be listed down below in case you want to check them out. But I hope that you enjoyed creating this piece with none of the products that I guess they really use. But as usual, that's the point. It's that we don't have to have exactly what we see on screen. We can make do, and if we have something along similar lines. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!